I will call to order the special council meeting of Monday, April 27th at 5:30 p.m. in Cayce City Hall chambers. The press and public have been notified according to the Freedom of Information Act.
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you. I believe that Councilmember Thomas has our invocation this evening.
Yes, ma'am, Mayor. If everyone would pray with me, if you will. Jesus, thank you so much for this beautiful day. Thank you so much for allowing all of us to wake up and see it and gather here today. Thank you so much for allowing us all to have so much passion about this issue. And no matter what happens, Jesus, just allow this whole community to come together and know that we are so blessed to live in a country where we can agree to disagree. I ask that you continue to bless our first responders and our educators and our families in this beautiful city. Thank you so much for allowing the events this past weekend to not bring tragedy and divide this country even further. I just ask that you bring this country together and remind everyone that we are one nation under God. And just thank you so much for all your love and power. In the name of Jesus I pray, amen.
Amen. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a presentation on the details of the potential agreement of the proposed Thomas Dambo Public Art Project and projected return on investment.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Our City Attorney, James Smith, is going to start the presentation for us this evening.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, City Manager. Please forgive my back to you at this time, but I know you would want me to be addressing the citizens, so if you'll apologize for that. But I know this is information you know, but you want them to have.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. What a privilege. My name is James Smith. I'm very grateful to serve as the city attorney for Cayce, and I'm grateful to the members, the mayor and council for giving me the extraordinary privilege of doing that. One of my many duties and obligations is to help them navigate legal issues and to make sure when we make decisions that they're legally supported. And so I'm there to support them, to support you. And so that's what I'm discharging my duty here today is as I've gone on their behalf to share with them about the nature of this proposed agreement, and then they are informed to make those decisions. I have to really, the mayor and all of council early on wanted to make sure you all had all the information that they had, but there was a process. And so even before that we went into the process of negotiating, they wanted to make sure that all of the citizens of Cayce were aware that they were negotiating. And now that that process is completed, they all wanted to make sure you all knew what they knew about the proposed contract. Hence, I am before you to share that. So thank you all for this extraordinary privilege and for your care for your own community for being here this evening. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Thomas Dambo Troll Art Project. If I can get this thing to work. Maybe there's an on button. Yeah, is that the first slide? I'm in the military. We do something called PCCs, PCIs, pre-combat checks. I didn't do those tonight. Okay, here we go. I'll let you advance them for me if you would. First slide. Okay, so what the purpose of tonight is, first it's facts. It's to present facts, talk about the terms of the agreement. Now, the 35 trolls in the U.S. and the terms of this agreement are similar to other trolls in similarly situated areas. So this is the fundamental terms and the nature of the agreement isn't new to Cayce. It's been done now in a number of other places around the country. We also were fortunate to get a lot of residents' questions. So this effort is to answer many of the questions that you've provided to us. And so that's helped us drive what we've put in this presentation so that we're addressing your questions. I'm going to outline specifically the cost, the funding, the source of that funding, and then the various responsibilities. What is the city responsible for? What is Thomas Dambo and his crew responsible for? And I'm going to share you an example of a return on the investment. So out of the 35 out there, each of them has had a significant impact, you could say, on their communities, and we'll talk about a couple of specific ones. I'm not aware of anyone, failing or returning their troll. I don't think that's happened ever. There was one that was moved because of traffic concerns, but it definitely has an impact, right? So we're going to talk about that impact and what it means for the community that we care the most about, our community here at Cayce. So next slide. Important note, this is a proposed agreement as I share it with you today. It is not final. It's not final until your public servants behind me say it's final. So, and they'll take that up in due course, but this is a proposed agreement and it requires their approval. There's no legal obligations until it's fully executed. So wanted you to know that's where we are right now. Next slide. So we heard a number of concerns and this is an effort to address those things about what's the total cost. We know there's a cost for the troll itself, that there's additional costs. What are those? What can they be? What are the funding sources? Who's responsible for long-term maintenance? You know, what does that cost? What does that look like? What's happened in other communities? Safety, traffic, infrastructure needs are all part of reasonable and appropriate concerns that you all have raised with your elected leaders here, and I'm going to work to answer those. And of course, lastly, transparency, fundamentally making sure you all have the information. That's what we're all about tonight. So project overview. It is fundamentally an economic development investment by this city, right? So where these have been done 35 other times, it's an intent to drive tourism, to drive revenue, visits, people, to come learn about Cayce, those that may have never been here. And I promise you, to all the other 35 locations around the country, there are a lot of people that show up to these places that have never been there before. And I'll tell you, in our discussions with Mr. Dambo and his team, he was particularly interested in being here. He'd like to be in all 50 states. Right now there's like 8 or 9, I think, in North Carolina, but not one in South Carolina. So this would be the first of one in South Carolina. He liked that. Also liked the area, the river walk area was really an ideal location that they felt. So there were a number of people lining up waiting to get in line to get a troll. He likes the idea of coming here for a variety of reasons, sees it's particularly impactful for us and for him. This is a large-scale, one-of-a-kind public art installation. It is created by this internationally recognized artist, Thomas Dambo, constructed primarily of reclaimed materials. He has a philosophy about this. He really wants this to be something that is as sustainable in reclaiming old wood and repurposing it for his art. The proposed location, we'll talk a little bit more about that, is the Cayce Riverwalk. And also very important to these are requirements of the artist, that it must remain publicly accessible and at no cost. Next slide. Let's talk a little bit about the artist. He's a Danish artist, recycling artist, renowned for creating massive whimsical troll sculptures that have been used by repurposed materials, primarily scrap wood, as I mentioned. His mission is to promote recycling and sustainability, often placing these, as he calls them, forest guardians in hidden natural locations to encourage exploration. Some of them you can pull up to, many of them, but the purpose is they don't have an address. He has a website that everyone is there and you can find him, but it should be, his intent is to have some level of an adventure to locate a troll. And he doesn't allow signage around any of these trolls. If you have sponsors and others, those signage would be like way before, so that there's nothing that would disturb the setting that he wants to set as the artist. So next slide. So I think this slide is particularly important because these were given to us as examples of what we could expect, like for Cayce. Given the size and complexity, these are examples. The one on the left is actually, her name is Little Sally. She is a troll up at High Point, North Carolina. And we talked, and I think a number of your elected leaders talked to the leadership at High Point about their experience and how that has gone for them and the investment that they made and how they feel about it. But the setting is usually defined by a joint effort between the city and the artist to find a location. And he'll find, as you can see, he'll have a vision as the artist. And in one, he saw a troll that provided a bridge over, a creek. And in the case of Little Sally, he saw an opportunity to have Little Sally holding on to a tree there in that scene. And she's, as I said, in High Point. But he'll come to try to find the right setting and to think, as the artist, what it might look like. And he likes to tie into the local community. It's hard to tell But on little Sally, her hair is made up of a bunch of furniture pegs, like pieces of a table, and because we all know High Point, right? That's the big furniture place. So he has a bunch of furniture pieces that make up little Sally's hair. So next slide. Scope of the work. What are we talking about? The artist will develop this concept. It's going to come up with it. It'll be our own unique concept. It's not going to be like anybody else's. It'll be Cayce's specific style troll, unique to this community. It'll be fabricated using reclaimed materials, has been mentioned. It'll be shipped pre-built components. They'll do some of the early work, so thankfully we don't have to do it all here because these things are somewhat complex, but it'll come somewhat pre-built to Cayce, and then there'll be a plan of volunteers to get together to finish it with on-site assembly and installation. And final will be delivery with approval by the city of making sure it meets our expectations, and then a maintenance plan for the troll. Next slide. Timeline. What can you expect in terms of the timeline? Mr. Dambo would like to start really right away and he would like to get here in the fall of 26 and begin scoping out the site. There'll be an opportunity for you to meet him, and I encourage you to do that should council decide to move forward with this. And he works to get connected with each community that they work in. The pre-production phase and fabrication will take place back at his home in Copenhagen. That'll be done in early 27. There'll be a period of installation and shipping, which we think somewhere around the spring, about a year from now, with the project being completed by November 1st, 2027. Next slide. So let's talk about what it cost. And the cost experience, it varies in location, but most of the trolls this size are about $350,000. So when you look at a troll the size that we're talking about, that's a $350,000 troll. The smallest one goes for about, I think, $250,000. So this is kind of a mid-range and mid-complexity level troll. The project costs, and we'll talk specifically about those, but we've seen them as less as 25, but I don't think for us, I think our experience, because they were doing multiple trolls and they had some ways to shave costs, but I think we can expect additional project costs to run anywhere from $50,000 to $90,000. I'll tell you that they said that 90 would be the highest max you could expect it. And that's what we asked them. So it was like the worst case scenario, and they gave us the number 90,000. So we estimate a total estimate of the investment between $400,000 and $440,000. The final cost, as all will be the case, it'll be all publicly reported and shared, assuming it's approved by council. Next slide. All right, what does it cover? What does this amount of money get you? The base contract at $350,000. It gets the design, the concept, the development, the fabrication, the construction, the actual, the physical troll itself. The additional costs, which can, vary, but that's why we give that sort of, it includes travel, lodging, meals for their team, shipping and insurance, because they'll be shipped in a container over here to bring the troll here, some site preparation and installation that has got to be done, and some logistical costs. Those will be the additional costs. And some of that, can be spent here in our own community, obviously. So next slide. Payment. The way this payments will work, it's 5 installments. There's a 30% down upon signing, but each phase after that's tied to a completion of a phase. So as things are done, payment is made. We have the full right to reject anything that is not incomplete or we don't believe meets what our expectation under the agreement. Next slide. So the funding strategy, there's been some talk about this, but the primary source is going to come from hospitality tax revenues and accommodations tax revenues. And supplemental sources, and there's been work on this already, is looking at grant opportunities, corporate sponsorships, and private donations and in-kind contributions. Next slide. I want to talk a little bit about this in more detail, then the expert, I'm going to turn it over to the city manager for some more detail about some specifics, but I just want to give you some background on a couple of these things before I do that. The funding sources, these are the H tax and A tax, they're legally restricted to tourism uses. So the reason we can spend this money is because it creates a facility that attracts new people to come here that wouldn't come here before. So it's limited in what you can fund by statute. It's important to know that your council is not considering this if there weren't funds available and eligible. Now, nothing's spent, they've got to decide to spend it, but if there weren't funds available and eligible, we wouldn't be talking about this. It cannot be, directed to general government services. So these H tax and A tax, they can't pave your roads or fix your sidewalks or fix, we're not taking, by spending this money, they're not taking away from those primary government needs. This is limited to only what you can do and in this nature of attracting new visitors to Cayce. And as it's intended to generate new economic activity. Next slide. Private funding status, there's nothing confirmed at this time. Grant applications have been submitted for consideration, so there's some ongoing efforts, initial efforts, but there's definitely contemplated, as many others have experienced, some measure of private partnership and private support. And if I could, Mr. City Manager, can you tell us a little bit about maybe a little more specifics about H-tax and A-tax and the availability of those funds? And I'll continue when you're complete.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, James. Excuse me. As City Council prepared to go through this process, we did reevaluate our spending. We were intended to spend about $50,000 out of H-tax fund balance and about $50,000 out of our A-tax fund balance that existed, that sat there, and those were unused funds that sort of accumulated over a period of time. And then our Riverwalk and certain sections of our city on Knox Abbott, Riverwalk, and some areas on Frank Street are all under a TIF district where we have the ability to spend funding to increase or to encourage tourism. So we also have that fund where we can spend funds out of that to support the $100,000 or more. But our intention, as always, was to leverage all of our existing resources. So, of course, grants were out there. We were interested in looking at some grants right now. We applied for one, a small one, but anything helps in those particular manners. And of course, with this being a project that we hope the community would get behind, looking at those private fundings where there's contributions from our partners in the city or around, and scholarships and kind donations, all of those to decrease of course, the dent that we put in our budget for this particular project.
Great.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for helping us with those details. Next slide. Let's get into some more of the responsibilities and terms. Again, what the city's going to be responsible for is approving the installation site. So it'll be a combination of the artist saying, this looks like a great spot, but if we don't approve that spot, or it's not eligible, or it's not zoned or something, he can't put this on the top of City Hall. It needs to be in a place where we approve. And so we'll approve and we'll prepare the site, whatever it ends up being. We are responsible to secure permits, regulatory approvals, provide labor and equipment, tools for the installation, materials for that process. We'll support the artist team with lodging and logistics, and maintain the installation over the lifespan of the troll. Next slide. Maintenance and lifespan. So many communities that already do. The oldest troll in the U.S. right now is about 12 years old, and each community that we've talked to, they estimate it's roughly about $3,000 to $5,000 cost maintenance each year. Typically, what they have done, I've heard that people have an annual birthday for the troll, and they come out and turn some screws and put some oil on the troll and care for it and make minor repairs that are needed, but provide it the care it needs to sustain. These things are meant to be perishable materials, right? So you want to extend their life, and it's providing some minimum of care that allows the troll to continue. But it requires that kind of annual care and upkeep. But we will be responsible for that through the lifespan of the troll. Next slide. Ownership, also very important and also very typical of these agreements. So when Cayce will not own the troll, right? The artist will always own the troll. Cayce will have a license for 10 years that can be extended for 10 years. The troll maintains the artist's intellectual property rights ownership over the troll, and the reason is the way it's explained in the negotiation with me and others is that if somebody doesn't take care of it and it falls in disrepair, then it's got to be removed. He's going to require you to remove it. So there's some ongoing, goodwill, maintenance, caring for this so that it both enhances our reputation and his reputation. So he doesn't have some falling down rotten troll somewhere that doesn't reflect his work nor our care for his work. So it's a community-based joint effort with the artist, but we will not physically own it. We'll have a license for 10 years. It can be extended for 10 years, assuming we maintain the troll properly. Any modifications, any substantial modifications require the artist's approval because it's a piece of artwork. Next slide. Risk and liability is what you might expect. We're still protected under the State Tort Claims Act, so we have significant protections under state law. There's a 12-month warranty for defects. Again, we're responsible for long-term maintenance and repairs, and the artist is limited to major negligence and the installation. But the work will be done here when it comes to the installation. Next slide. So the place we're looking is the Cayce Riverwalk, and looking and seeing this troll and the pictures of them, it kind of makes sense that would be a location to consider. But it's going to be near existing recreational and natural assets of the city. It's accessible to residents and visitors, and it should be close to local businesses and dining areas to benefit our own community, our own small businesses. Next slide. Economic impact, which is the primary reason for doing this. It's not just a question of having a nice piece of artwork. It is having an economic impact on this community. Without a doubt, it's going to be increased traffic, and I'm going to show you some examples. It's going to be people come from all over the world to see these things. And it'll attract regional and out-of-town visitors. It'll support nearby restaurants and retail services, and we know that's been the experience in everywhere they've been located. And it will generate tourism and related economic activity that was not there before. Next slide. Here's a great example of, and we picked this one because this was one of the ones that was 100% funded by tourism tax dollars. And I tell you, most of those that are out there are usually a combination of some public dollars, some private dollars. There's a few that are 100% privately funded and privately invested. There was a development outside of Charlotte that was all private dollars. This one is all public dollars. Many of them are mixed public and private partnerships. But they spent $365 on Mama Rosa and this Wisconsin community of 48,000 people. Within the first month, they had 62,000 visitors, and they came from 32 states and generated, and this is from their own website, over $4 million in economic impact in the first month. So these things do have an impact. And there are a variety of outcomes in different areas, but they all see definitely an increase in visitors and an increase in revenue once they're in place. Next slide. So important. Transparency. Fundamental. This is why I'm here, why City Council and the Mayor have all asked for this to take place, that you have all of this information yourselves, the same information that they're using to make this decision, that you know everything that they know. So going forward, that would continue, assuming if City Council chooses to pursue this, they'll move forward and continue to share the agreement, the funding sources, disclose the project cost, not just the base contract, but as it moves forward, what are the impacts, share maintenance plans and costs for that, and share what the impact is. How is this impacting our community in terms of visitors and revenue? So that'll be tracked, and that all will be shared with you all. So next slide. I think that's it. Mayor, members of council, I just want to, again, thank you for this opportunity, and I appreciate all of you allowing me to have this role to share with your community a little bit of the background and what all this means for them, and thank you for the privilege of allowing me to do that. And pending your questions, or I can come back later if you want to hold. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have public comment regarding items on the agenda.
Yeah, excuse me. Yes, we have 16 on the agenda. First up is Robin Reese.
Good evening. At our last meeting, it was stated that the community had received false information. so I took time to look into it myself. And I want to walk through what I found. Current conditions. Here is where Cayce stands today. Limited restaurants, minimal retail, no meaningful hotel base. We do not have the infrastructure to retain tourism spending. There's an existing project not completed. There is already an art district project along the State Street and Frank Street. It is not completed, it is not developed, it is not functional as a destination. Why are we starting a new project in a different area when the one is still unfinished? How tourism works. People go where there are things to do. We stay where there are hotels. They spend where there is a cluster of businesses. Single attractions do not hold people, systems do. Structure reality. We are placing an attraction in a city that is still building next to a city that's already built. Columbia already has hotels, restaurants, retail, and entertainment. Spending follows infrastructure. Visitors may come to Cayce, but they will go to Columbia to spend. Visibility on social media. People tag recognizable locations. Large cities receive that exposure. So the visibility will point to Columbia, not Cayce. The reality check, visibility does not equal revenue. If people are not staying and spending here, the exposure does not benefit Cayce. The millions claim. There is a clear difference between regional impact and local revenue. Without hotels, restaurants, retails, and entertainment, Cayce cannot capture that level of spending. Leadership. According to the official bio of the mayor, there is a strong emphasis on regional partnerships. That is not a bad thing, but it raises a necessary question. Does this decision benefit Cayce? Final thoughts. Cayce does not have the infrastructure to retain spending. Columbia already does. The money will follow the infrastructure. Cayce brings the visitors, Columbia captures the spending. Until Cayce has the infrastructure to keep the spending here, this project does not deliver the returns being presented. I ask this council to stand with the citizens of Cayce, not the interest of Columbia, and please vote no.
Thank you, Ms. Reese.
Next is Ron Wright.
Good evening again. Lady before me did a very good job bringing up some of the points I wanted to make. But she's right. We don't have the infrastructure. We're going to spend the money. Columbia, and to a lesser extent, West Columbia, is going to reap most of the benefits. We were given one example in this fine presentation by Mr. Smith. One example of a city 100% funded by tax dollars. Councilman Thomas, last week in a meeting and on Facebook over the weekend, you gave a list of cities. Primary funding is through private donations, grants, private money. Councilwoman All, you say that you're concerned about, that you are now proposing that at least 50% of the funding be done through private sources. And in my notes here, I have $350,000 being spent, but now we're being told it's going to be over 400, and when you add in all the yearly maintenance costs, you're looking at close to $500,000 now. That's a lot of money to bring in tax revenue to Columbia and West Columbia. All these cities that we're being compared to, I don't know about this one that was just brought up, but we are not Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. We are not Mandora, Australia. These are major tourist destinations. Mandorah, Australia, in 2023 won a national award for being Australia's top tourist town for the entire country. We're not there. I mean, we're way behind Charleston, Myrtle Beach, Hilton Head, even Greenville brings in more tourist dollars than Columbia. And again, we just simply don't have the infrastructure. The revenues, what revenue there is going to flow to other municipalities. So tonight, I ask you all to please vote no for spending our tax dollars on this project. If you approve this, you are locking us into a contract exceeding $250,000, plus all these added costs that are going to probably go up to around $500,000. And we all know these estimates, they're often lowballed, so it could be much, much higher than that. But if you vote no, that does not shut the door on the troll being here. We can do it with private funding. If there's as much enthusiasm as there seems to be, I really don't think it would be a problem. And I'd like to remind council that a year and a half ago, in November 2024, the city of Cayce received a $2.1 million donation from the Boyd Foundation to construct the Welcome Center down here at Otari Point, the trailhead for the Timberman Trail. $2.1 million. That's half of the estimated cost of that project. If you can get $2 million for them, you ought to be able to get $350,000, $400,000 for the troll. Then the A tax and H tax money can be used on other things, like going towards this visitor center, or upkeep and improvements on the Riverwalk. The areas down there now, 1 or 2 more floods, we're going to lose part of that paved walkway. It's going to cave into the river. That happens, then you shut it down for several months while you're fixing everything. Well, what's that do to people going to see the troll? But there's a lot better ways to spend this money. Private funding is the way to do this. That way we do not shoulder the entire burden of the cost while other municipalities get most of the benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Next, Regina Langston.
Hi, thanks for letting me speak. I'm not really good at dates and specifics, but I'm kind of speaking from the heart. I am a longtime Cayce resident and an artist who has been really excited about Cayce being an arts district, and now there is a chance to put some light and fire under that. Ron said, we're not there, but this will help take us there. In 1998, I was a student at Winthrop, and Audrey Flack was commissioned to do Civitas, like the gateway to Rock Hill. It was like $1 million project. I was a protester. I was like those young folks out there. I was like, no, this doesn't make sense. There are homeless people, and there are these things. And but I have seen since then the massive growth of Rock Hill as this little college town to like a huge economic place with restaurants and businesses and artists and all the things, all the good things. If we're going to drive our economy the way we want it to be as an arts district, we have to think big. We have to be creative. I am very grateful for this opportunity, and I respect everybody who has questions and concerns and is saying no. I just want us to see how great this will be for our city. When we had the lunar eclipse or the solar eclipse, and all of these people were coming from everywhere just for that one event, that short event. Like many restaurants opened up. They didn't all last, but I think that when people know that it's coming, the troll is coming, they're going to have ideas. They're going to be inspired. They're going to want to start businesses here. Think about the potential short-term rental, and that's probably all kinds of other things that have to be discussed. But I have a friend also whose dad comes every year from Switzerland. He stays in Cayce. He does things in Cayce. He loves Cayce. He sees the potential, in Cayce. We need to see the potential in Cayce. Growth is inevitable, and money flows where the energy goes. So let's spend this money on the trolls. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Langston.
Next, Renee Eshelman.
Good evening. I'm Renee Eshelman. I'm president of the Cayce Arts Guild. I'll tell you, this has brought about a large amount of excitement in the arts community. This is big, y'all. This is huge. And what we see is the spurring of other things, of other art installations, enhancement of the Arts District. It's just exciting. It's big. We're thrilled about the prospects of this. And I certainly see both sides of the funding issue, and I'm confident that that will be resolved, and this will go forward in one way or another. The board for the guild's already had some conversations about things that we might do in support of this to broaden its impact and to involve other people, as some other art organizations have done in the Midlands area. So it's hugely exciting for us, and we appreciate the leadership that has brought this big deal. It's a big deal, and it will be a long-term investment, and we appreciate the idea and the energy that it has brought about to the community at large, and the arts community especially. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eshelman.
Ross Sheely.
All right, thank you, Mayor, members of council. My name is Ross Sheely. I'm a 22-year Cayce resident. I live in Moss Creek. Can't wait for Edenwood Swim Club to open up, where I'm a member, and worship down the road at Cayce United Methodist. Those are my Cayce bona fides, in case you're interested. I'm in support of the art installation, the troll. These things, there's a lot of enthusiasm around them, and I think it's kind of a no-brainer from an economic standpoint. For me personally, I just think it's more of making Cayce a great place to work, play, live, be. It's something that I wish we had when my kids were young, and I hope we have when they have their own kids, and I'm, a grandparent, if that happens. I kind of think it will be like the synchronous fireflies, except year-round. I think it's the same type of people coming in droves. And if you go on social media and look at these things, people come, they talk about lines, because not only do they come, they want to get a photo with the art, and, it markets itself. It's just a great idea. I appreciate the vision, and I think it would be amazing. And that would be my opinion, even if I thought this would merely break even as far as dollars and cents. And regardless of what mix of public-private funding, fully publicly funded, as long as it's the A-tax and H-tax, that's fine with me. I think it would be great, and I appreciate y'all's work on it.
Thank you, Mr. Sheely.
Next, Joe Long.
Mayor Parton, members of council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Joe Long, third-generation Cayce resident, and I believe this city is standing on the edge of something genuinely special, and I don't want us to step back from it. Go back to February 3rd. No noise, no debate, just 5 members of council united, authorizing negotiations for the first Thomas Dambo troll in South Carolina. That vote was confident, it was bold, it was a signal, a unified council, a unified Cayce ready to do something big. Within 24 hours of that announcement generated almost $40,000 in free media. People were online tagging friends on social media saying there's one coming. That kind of organic excitement before a single piece of wood has been placed doesn't happen by accident. It happens when a community does something worth getting behind. This is Cayce's moonshot moment. Wauwatosa, Wisconsin just did this. Their troll, Mama Rosa, is Wisconsin's first Thomas Dambo sculpture. Their cost, including installation, was approximately $365,000, funded entirely through hotel and motel tax revenues. The same tourism restricted mechanism Cayce already has available, no private fundraising, no sponsor prerequisites, just a city that committed and got it done. Here are the results, straight from the city of Wauwatosa's own published report. It just, on the first 33 days opening, May 28th through June 30th, Mama Rosa drew over 62,000 visitors. Nearly 39,000 of those came from outside of Wauwatosa, representing 32 different states. The estimated economic impact for an opening month, over $4 million. By the time Wauwatosa published those numbers late August, Mama Rosa had already been running for 3 months and the crowds hadn't stopped. That is an 11-1 return on $365,000 public investment in 1 month. Our A-Tax and H-Tax funds exist for exactly this purpose, to drive tourism, grow our tax base, and build the kind of community assets that make people want to move here, stay here, and spend here. And considering this, even if the final investment came to $500,000, that's still an 8-1 return based on Wauwatosa's first month alone. There are few economic development tools in the city's arsenal that comes close to that number. The math works at 365, it works at 400,000, it works at 500,000. This is a sound investment at any reasonable cost. I want to address the private sponsor requirement directly. This council has funded other tourism initiatives without requiring private sponsorship to be fully secured in advance, and rightly so. In fact, significant tourism allocations have been made to established organizations without any formal application even being on file at the time of the vote. We simply ask for a same standard to be applied here. Applying a new prerequisite to this project, one that hasn't been the standard for other tourism investments, isn't fiscal caution, it's obstacle distress dressed up as a condition. Wauwatosa didn't require a single private dollar before signing their contract. The funding mechanism is sound, the precedent is proven, the only thing missing is the signature. The tourism tax can't fix a pothole. But a city full of troll hunting visitors spending money all over Cayce, that's how you build a healthier community. I'm already looking forward to a troll teeny at George Roberts, a troll burger at Kingsman Restaurant, and a troll latte at Peacewalk Coffee Company. Those aren't just fun ideas, those are real dollars flowing through Cayce businesses every single day. The troll puts people in the door, our local business do the rest. So I'll say this directly and respectfully. The February 3rd vote, that was the answer. The confidence in that room was the plan. What the council did that night was right, and the path forward is simply to follow through on it. Looking at tonight's agenda item, possible action to approve a contractual arrangement with Thomas Dambo for the creation and installation of a public fund within the city. That's it. No funding referendum.
Mr. Long.
Just the same commitment to council. Let's don't talk ourselves out of a win.
Thank you, Mr. Long.
Clyde Alley.
Good evening. My name is Clyde Alley, and I'm here to speak in regards to the troll. I'll be brief. I've been here several times discussing this. Basically, it's, as far as the taxes go, I think you should be looking at municipalities, West Columbia, to help out with this, or go to private funding. Using the tax dollars is not the right way to approach this. As far as the location at the Riverwalk, I'm afraid that when the Riverwalk floods, it floods, and it goes up pretty high. And depending on knowing where that flood line is going to be to where you put the troll is a real question. As far as from the way the weather goes, Mother Nature, you'll never know where that flood line may end up being. I took an opportunity last Monday to go to Charlotte to look at the troll, Pete. And being there, there was nothing else to do other than see the troll and come back. It took me longer to drive up there and drive back than to see the troll. There was a few people that were walking in the trail, but there was really nobody there. And that was in the afternoon, about 3 o'clock, something like that. Question is, as far as safety in this location, be able to have a lot of people, if this is going to be visited by a considerable amount of people, making sure that they have a way to get in and get out without trampling over each other or trampling over unused areas. Also, security as far as after hours, making sure that the site is still secure. And so I oppose this, and I hope that you will vote no for this at this time. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Alley.
Pam Eads?
I'm sorry.
Mayor, Council. I'm here today. I want to speak in behalf of the Troll Project. As someone who works with a lot of committees and clubs here in the city, a lot of times our goals is trying to figure out how to get people to come to Cayce and how to love Cayce. But sometimes, some of the things I've heard tonight makes me feel like not everybody loves Cayce. And not everybody actually knows what's happening in Cayce. For example, every day we have people who come here just for the Tinman Trail, just for the Riverwalk, just for State of the Art. I know people who come here for dinner just for Velas, just for Murray's. The whole concept that we're not good enough is ludicrous. It's insulting to the people that are here that are building this city. So I wanted to make sure that that is understood, that that's really, if you don't like spending $500,000, don't blame it on the city and not being good enough. Now, does funding have to be perfect? It doesn't sound like it has to be perfect. Can you push it out another year with your contract? You probably can. Now, there is a question about whether or not West Columbia and other areas can give us HTAX. No, they really can't. The law says it's for your city. It's not for somebody else's city. Tartan Days can do it because they have events here, they have events in West Columbia, they have events in Lexington. They can get tax money from all three places because they have the parts of the events there. We can't put a troll in 3 different cities at the same time. So no, we can't go that way. But we can do public, private and public fundraising. We have a wonderful beautification foundation who has the ability to do fundraising for an event like this. We have an event committee that can help them. We have clubs and organizations throughout this city who would love to partnership in with that. We have an amazing chamber board who would probably love to help figure out a sponsorship plan so that we could raise part of the money. And I can tell you, it's possible to raise $100,000, $200,000 in 2 years. No problem. You just have to have the vision to do it. Now, the other thing I want to say is now that we've brought this up, if you guys say no at this point and table it, you know it's never coming back. This is how this council works. You know it's not ever going to come back. So at this point, the best way to keep this project going is to put it back to our city managers and your lawyer and get your final plan, get your final timeline, and go for it. Because I'll tell you what, there are other cities in this state who are waiting for us to fail this moment. It might be a political win for you to vote yes. It might be a political win for you to vote no. But if we vote no at this hurdle, it is a failure for our city. And it hurts our reputation. Who's going to want to partner with us with something else? Because consider this. In February, you put out this nice little cupcake, or maybe troll cake. And everybody was happy and cheerful, and then you're pulling it back and saying, psych. How does that look, does the rest of the area look to us on that? So, and I would like to say one other thing. I wasn't going to say anything about the trolls in closing. But in college, I had a professor who taught me a lot about 20th century art, even if I didn't really want to know it. But he had two pearls of wisdom about art that always stayed with me. The first is you don't buy art just because it matches your sofa. And yes, that is true. You don't do that. But the other thing is that great art will show you something new every time you look at it. In other words, it will always give you more than it takes. The trolls, by all of accounts, are magnificent and will give Cayce much more than they will ever take. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eads.
April Blake.
Hi, my name is April Blake. I've been living in Cayce for, I think, 19 years now, long time. But I just wanted to ask everyone, are we thinking about this from a numbers perspective or an emotional perspective? Are you mad about who suggested the idea? Is that where all this weird animosity is coming from? Or is it just a good number investment? That's what this guy's for, doing some numbers, doing some calculating. Think about it numerically, not from emotions, not from who thought of it at first. Think about it like that, and whoever's sending those weird text messages, maybe don't. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blake.
Danny Creamer.
Good afternoon. I've had a rough couple of weeks, but I'm here tonight because I felt like I needed to be here tonight. I brought my wife with me because she can't be alone. She's got some medical issues. But what I'm going to bring up tonight is, first of all, contrary to a lot of social media, I'm not against the trolls. That's my first point. The second thing is, I think that people are being misled by all of the tax dollars or the tourism taxes we're going to be able to get off this. Listen now, how many motels does the city of Cayce have? Right now, they got 3. Got Sleep Inn, O'Connell Lodge, and the Marriott. That's it. Got one fixing to be built over there in her neighborhood that they've raised so much sand about and everything. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. How many restaurants do we have? I'm not talking about Arby's or Captain D's or Zaxby's. And I'm not talking about Lizard's Thicket. I'm talking about restaurants. We have one, what I would consider upscale that I could take my wife to and really enjoy. Something place that a visitor could come with his wife, family, or whatever, and go sit down and have a nice meal. And that's George Roberts, who just opened up, I think, last week. That's all we got to offer, folks. You look at the map of the city of Cayce, we're landlocked. You got 12th Street Extension, you got 321, and you got part of 302. That's it. You got a chicken foot there. And we're right down the middle. And next to us, you've got a West Columbia, which is just booming at the seams. Across the river, you got Columbia. If people are going to come here to Cayce, yes, that's going to put us on the map because people are going to say, hey, man, you ought to go to Cayce. They got a troll. Where you going to stay? I'm going to probably go across the river, at the Marriott. Because Cayce ain't got nothing right now, folks. And like I said, it's not that I'm against the trolls. I'm just against some of the putting out there that we're going to benefit so much from the trolls. And a couple things that was brought up tonight by Mr. Smith, which I really, James, really appreciate that presentation. It was great, is the ongoing cost of the project, and you don't really know how much it's going to cost you at the end. It's kind of like leasing a car. You got to do it today because this is the best deal I can give you today. I can't give you that deal tomorrow. You're going to lease it. You're going to pay the taxes on it. You're going to have insurance on it. You're going to keep it serviced. And at the end of that term, it still ain't your car. He just said that. The artist retains the ownership of that project. I'm sorry, I can't buy that. When I put that kind of money in something, listen here, it's mine. But all I'm asking you is to think out of the box, think about the whole thing as one. And there, like I said, I'm not against the trolls. I'm not against a troll whatsoever. I'm against on how we're going around trying to get the troll. And I'm with a lot of other people that spoke tonight, where we're going to put it. Now, the artist has not come up with a place to put it. I mean, come on, folks. But anyway, I've said my piece. I'm asking y'all to vote from the heart, not from what people have said tonight. Vote from the heart. Vote for what's going to be good for the city of Cayce. And if y'all want the trolls, don't have no problem. Let's get some outside sponsorship to help with that now $440,000+. That's close to $500,000, folks, and we ain't even there yet. Because there's a lot of other things that the city can spend that money on in bringing tourism into our city. Thank you so much. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Creamer.
Chip Salick.
Hello. Yep, I'm back again. Council. What I heard tonight, James did a good job. We were asked to turn in questions last time and have them in by noon, and I turned in 37 questions, and you answered some of them. Some of them still haven't been answered, but I was concerned is maybe a little procedure thing, and somebody can correct me, but the council members that I talked to never saw those questions. And I don't know if they saw any questions. And then I wonder, too, how many of the council members saw this presentation before it was presented to us. It would seem to me if we're working as a body, as a unified body, that you guys would have been included in the presentation of what was going to go in that presentation, what it was going to look like, and be sure that all these questions that are unanswered get answered. So I don't know how the unanswered questions now are going to be answered, but I will say there's some that are not still answered, and I think they're important questions. What I did learn tonight is that all the talk has been about the HA taxes. Now we hear about TIF. First time that's come up that I'm aware of. Okay, I need some more education on that, but that's all of a sudden another. So it looks to me like we keep scrambling, and we keep changing things around. The other piece I don't think James included was what the site preps are going to be, because I don't think that's kind of an unknown. And depending on where it goes, there could be a lot of site prep. There could be very minimal site prep, but that's a number that we need to know about, and I don't think it's in any of those numbers. Then I was kind of floored when the contract says we don't own it. It draws me back when people lease cars. Okay, I can't see us leasing a piece of art every 10 years and being responsible for it. My concern is all the research I did, and I didn't, like I told you last time, more than I wanted to do, okay? These things last 3 to 5 years. Yes, Mayor, please don't shake your head no, because it's true. It's even in his website. They can last to 10 years depending on how you take care of it. That's there. And he also mentions in his videos that sometimes they just go back to where they came from, back into the earth. That's his whole philosophy. Now, I get all that, and please don't disagree because it's in there. So my concern is we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on something that is temporary for the most part. One day may disappear. One day may not get taken care of. I told you last time I spoke, we're not doing a good job now of taking care of the resources that we have. We're not improving the Timmerman Trail. We're not improving the Riverwalk. We're not taking care of the roadways that we need to take care of. Just the maintenance side of things. It's not being done. And if we've got this kind of money already in these funds, why are we not using it for those things? Okay, so those are things we've got to pay attention to. We're not ready for a troll. Am I for a troll? Absolutely. Not with our money, though. It needs to be privately funded, and it needs to be when we're ready, and we're not ready. Where is the race? I've heard it mentioned several times. We'd be the first one in South Carolina to bring it. Doesn't make a difference. That's not important. The guy's going to build 1,000 of these, he said. He's only got 171, 172. He's got a long way to go. He's only 46 years old. Okay? Do the math. He's been doing it for 12 years. He's got 172. How many is that a year? We're not going to be out of the ball game. Will somebody get it before us? Yes, but what difference does that make? Okay? When we're ready, we ought to get a troll. If it's got the return that you all are talking about, okay, and it can be financially verified, then it does make sense, okay? But when we're ready for it, then we need to do it. And that's my concern. We're not ready. I don't know that we're working as a team, okay? And that concerns me. That's a procedural thing. It's a scary thing. We got to work as one body and not kind of like on our own. So I know I'm up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sala.
Brian Pravat.
I'm sorry, say it again, Brian.
Sorry?
What'd you say?
Oh, so next was Brian Pravat.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Brian Pravat. I live here in Cayce for the last 18 years, and I'm going to take a little different approach. If I've understood the facts that have been presented, we're talking about spending $400,000 to $440,000 of the taxpayers' money. And if I understand this correctly, this troll is going to be manufactured overseas with materials from overseas. We're going to, if I've understood that correctly, we talked about it having to ship here on a container. We're spending the taxpayers' dollars, $400,000 to $440,000 of the taxpayers' dollars on something that, as the news media said in one of their articles this morning, on the hope that it will generate $1.5 to $4 million or $5 million a year. Good business decisions are not based on hope. They're based on studies and facts, not on hope. But again, we're talking about spending the taxpayers' money. I understand this comes off the hotel and tour or hospitality tax. We need to think about, if we misspend the taxpayers' money, are the taxpayers going to quit dining? I remember when the tax was implemented several years ago, there were a lot of people that I heard say, you know what, it might be beneficial to go over to Columbia or go over to West Columbia where they don't have this extra tax on my prepared meal. If we misspend the taxpayers' money, are we going to have taxpayers that are going to go spend their dollars elsewhere, potentially eroding the tax dollars? The other thing I would say is we're talking about spending $400,000 on something you can go see. What if we postpone this and think about something that we could spend $400,000 of the taxpayers' money on that people can physically go to, touch, participate in? Maybe it's an amphitheater. Maybe it's a park where the children can play. Maybe it's a park that's got a walking trail where our senior adults can go walk. But a tangible asset that not only the citizens of Cayce, but the members of the community could come and enjoy. I just don't believe this is a wise expenditure of the taxpayers' money on something that some are going to go see. And I would also say, as others have pointed out, we're talking about an asset that we're not going to own. 10 years, and then there's the opportunity for a 10-year extension. The other question that hadn't been asked, and this is going to sound a little tongue-in-cheek when I ask this, but what's the termite contract going to cost on this thing? I mean, it's a wood structure. We're in South Carolina. I might sound funny when I ask that question, but is that being considered? What does that look like? I didn't see any details on that tonight, but I think these are all things that raise concerns that I don't think we as a community need to rush into nearly a $500,000 expenditure with the taxpayers' money. We have to be wise in how we use the taxpayers' money. So I'd ask you to consider that, and I would ask that you vote in opposition of moving forward with this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Catherine Algram.
Hello, everyone. My name is Catherine Algram. I've lived in Cayce for 9.5 years. I really love this city, and I did not prepare anything for tonight, so I am speaking from the heart as well. I am someone that has interacted with a Dambo troll many times before at the Spirit of Swanee Music Park, and they're amazing. And they're not just something you go look at. They're something that you touch, something that you walk under, something that you interact with. That's part of what he likes to do with them. And they're awe-inspiring and amazing. And I hear so much tonight, we're not ready. Well, sometimes you got to do things when you're not ready, because it will become ready when the time comes. You just got to leap with faith and believe that everything will be okay. You know, so I think that it will be a great thing for us to do for our city, and it will put us on the map, and that we have a long time before it's finished. That's plenty of time for us to get more restaurants open and more housing for people and all sorts of things that we think are problems right now. They will be solved before it is finished. That's what I believe. So that's all I have to say. I really do have to go. I plan to stay less time here tonight, but thank you so much for your time, and we'll see how it goes.
Thank you, Catherine.
Nim Norris.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I've heard a lot of talk about the money side of this, and I guess I'm a little surprised I'm the only one that's seeing it from a whole different perspective. One gentleman said he got nothing against the trolls. I do. I'm a Christian man, and I live by God's word. And I did some research when I first heard about this, which was Saturday. I think it was, my wife happened to see it. I started looking it up. And the history of trolls. And you have some good stories, but the history of the trolls is from Scandinavia. And I'm just going to get to the point. One of the things about trolls is that they disagree with humans. They don't like humans. They eat children. Now, I know these are mythical creatures, but what y'all are proposing to put down by the river is going to be a statue of a mythical creature. We don't put statues up to things that we don't admire or worship. So in essence, it will be the worship of a mythical creature that not only eats children, will eat adults, but would rather have children, and will eat Christians and smell Christian blood. I'm sorry, this is just, I got nothing wrong with the financial part of it. I believe you've done your homework. I do. And I think you guys do a great job in Cayce and in West Columbia and in Columbia. I think our cities are doing well, but this to me is just wrong. I can not in all conscience just sit back there and not say anything. I believe this is what happened when prayer got taken out of schools. It's the church sat down and did nothing. And I can't do that. I can't do that. This is wrong. I'm all for a project. I'm all for raising money. I'm all for improving the city. But I'm against the troll. I'm sorry. Thank you for your time. And you guys have a blessed evening.
Thank you, Mr. Loris.
That's going to be the last one, the last member on the list.
Thank you. All right, next, we have executive session if needed. Is there any need for,
Mayor, can we ask our city attorney some questions?
when we open the floor?
Well, motion for council comments.
That's not on the agenda.
Well, I would love to ask Mayor, can we have council comments to address some of the things some of the citizens said?
Yes, once we have a motion on the table, then it can be up for discussion.
Well, Mayor, I move that we have council comments.
That's not on the agenda. We can't amend the agenda at this point.
James, may I please have some clarity on this? Was that supposed to be done at the beginning of the meeting, or?
No, and I thank you, Councilman. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think in order for me to answer questions, we have to get to that point on the agenda. And we're not at the discussion point on the agenda yet. But once you're ready to take it up, then I can answer a question in open session. So it's up to y'all to decide if you want to take it up or not.
Okay.
Okay, then we'll move on to possible action to approve a contractual arrangement with Thomas Dambo for the creation and installation of public art within the city. Is there a motion?
Say what you were saying, James, sorry.
Oh, I asked if there was executive session. Did anybody want to go into executive session?
Is there discussion?
Yes, well, I'm wanting public discussion. Is that what we're asking now? I'm just trying to make sure, Mayor.
If there is a motion on the table, then that's when discussion can happen per Robert's Rules of Order.
Okay, and is that what we're doing now?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
We need a motion, though.
Okay, motion.
I'm sorry,
Oh.
1 second. Did you want to go into executive session?
Yes.
Okay, all right, then you can make a motion for it.
Motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Okay? I'll call the question.
Councilmember All,
Yes.
Councilmember Thomas,
Yes.
Councilmember Rose,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Carter,
No.
Mayor.
Yes, thank you, so moved. Action was taken in executive session, except not even this, just to come out of executive session. Next, we move on to possible action to approve a contractual arrangement with Thomas Dambo for the creation and installation of public art within the city. Is there a motion?
I make a motion.
Okay. What's your motion?
Hold on, I'm sorry. I have
That's
it
fine.
down
Take
here.
your time.
I am recognizing that the majority of the cost will be.
No, sorry, we need a motion first.
Oh, I make a motion to approve the troll.
Okay, so can we
We can do that.
clarify that, does that mean approving the agreement with the Thomas Dambo Art for the design, fabrication, and installation of a public artwork within the city of Cayce, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement,
Yes,
subject to approval as to form by the city attorney?
yes.
Okay, is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Okay, all right, now you may have the floor for discussion.
Okay. You want to go ahead? You want me to go? Okay. Guys, I have heard everyone, and I respect everyone's views. I believe in taking chances. I believe in Cayce. I believe in the citizens of Cayce, and that's why I'm sitting up here. Again, if we were all the same, this world would be a very boring place. I am hoping that this role will bring us together. You know, why do people want to build restaurants when there's nothing here? But now we get something here, so it encourages people to build restaurants. It encourages people to build businesses. And y'all, we're all not going to get along, but we can still respect one another.
Okay. James, you mind if I ask you just a couple questions? Yes, sir. Okay. So first, going back to your presentation, we talk about hospitality tax and accommodations tax.
Yeah.
Well, hospitality tax, were you at the State House when that law was written?
Gosh, I don't know that I'm that old. So I've been there for parts of it. But
I
yes,
got you.
sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I'm certainly familiar with
no,
it.
that's totally fine. There was parts of that slide that's talked about the roads, like, you know, we can't use H-tax for like roads.
Correct.
But to my knowledge, some cities have used H-tax for roads that, in regards to the law, are in tourism areas. Have you seen that, or, because I looked at the law.
So what drives it is, what is the tourism facility? What is
Yes.
the infrastructure you're building is a capital investment. And a lot of things can come to that. Like normally, in this contract, you couldn't buy meals and other things, but if it's required in order to deliver the tourism facility, then it can be covered. So it's really very fact dependent upon the circumstance. So I'd have to look at the specific facts of a circumstance, but here I can tell everybody on council and mayor that 100% of this contract is covered under H-tax and A-tax. So it is, we can, for all of the parts of it, you can spend those dollars to fulfill the delivery of this tourism initiative.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that clarification. I guess more so, I just wanted just to be public, because when I look at the law, it does say for highways, roads, streets, and bridges, providing access to tourist destinations. So wherever we designate as a tourist destination inside our city, technically we could use hospitality tax for road repairs, correct? Is that?
If it's part of a tourism facility, arguably, yes. I mean, you'd have to say, like, maybe if it's part of delivering the visitor center or something to bring in citizens from out of state, all of those things in order to, and you're right, typically they are, brick and mortar investments. So you couldn't like add the, sidewalk in your neighborhood that needed to be done that didn't, or an individual. We talked about, pocket parks, right?
Yeah.
We talked about that. If it wasn't focused on bringing citizens or individuals from outside of the community, then arguably that would be problematic. So.
Okay. All right. So move on to, I just want to move on to the city example that we used. How many people, what was the population of that city again in Wisconsin?
The Wisconsin example had about 48,000 plus or minus
Okay.
in total population. And in the first month it was over 62,000 in visitors.
Okay. So did we do research on how many hotels that city already had?
I did not, I don't know that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I looked it up, they have over 8 hotels. All right, and then when I looked up the tax, it's interesting, every state has their own definition of it.
Right.
They said, because it was really right there on Google. They used it with their hotel and Airbnb tax, so pretty much their version of an accommodations tax, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So regarding this, they then use hospitality tax from what is saying that they use that funding on, correct?
I understood it to be accommodations and hotel tourism tax. So
Yeah, hotel.
Like we have H-tax, A-tax, but it was
sir.
their tourism fund, yes.
I guess to me, I just want to make sure like the public knows, both of them are tourist tax, but one of them is a 100% tax on tourists. The other is a combination of tourists and residents that stay in the city, correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So did our city consider looking up Hansport in New Jersey? That they were another city that got
I
a
do
troll?
remember, yeah, that, I don't know can't recall the details of that one, but I know that was one of the ones we looked at.
Yes, sir.
And I think we had some discussions about that
Yes,
too.
sir.
Yeah.
So, just for clarification for the public knowledge, their population is more in line with the city of Cayce's. Their population is 6,000 to 7,000. Looking at the information,
Right.
just Googling it. Before they did sign that contract, because I did reach out to them, they got a pledge of $100,000. Now, their total project was around $141,000 back in 2023. So that $100,000 pledge, before they signed the contract, was at least 70% of the funding. And then the rest, they did fund from, I guess, some open balance that they had. So I just wanted just to do that clarification between both cities, because one city is a population of 50,000 with 8+ hotels, which I'm proud of them. I think they said that one of the 8th largest city in Wisconsin.
Right.
And then another city around 7,000 people, but they 100% did that, getting the pledge before they signed on the dotted line, which I feel like we'd align more with that city than that city in Wisconsin, because we don't have 8 hotels, and our population is more so in line with around hopefully getting close to 14,000 people.
Right.
So that was just what I was going to ask you earlier,
Yes, sir.
why your slots were up there. But again, I love the troll ideal. The art is beautiful. I got to visit it in Raleigh, North Carolina. Some people thought it was AI. It's sad that we live in a world where you don't know what's real or what's fake these days. But no,
Right.
it's beautiful. God really gave him a gift. But James, I just don't feel comfortable,
Yes, sir.
voting for this, not knowing that we don't have anything secured. And at the end of the day, we would be putting pressure on staff to find that extra funding. And there's a chance that those funding, the grants, we get rejected. The people we ask, the businesses, they say no. So, and then also, we just constantly have to look at what the euro conversion will be to the United States dollar. Because right now, what I saw, I guess, over the weekend, it was $1.17. And to my knowledge, James, when we ship it, if we were to sign a contract today, will that lock in whatever the U.S., whatever that dollar, or are we going to have to ship it whatever the currency is at that day?
It'll be whenever the payment's due, and so that would be the exchange rate that would apply is whenever the payments would be due. And that, we know, we talked to the High Point folks and their
Yes.
experience, and I know you talked to them as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So if we were, let's say if this were to not happen right now, we could continue to work on this, correct, and secure that funding, because the way I see it is, yes, this artist might have a timeline, but I don't believe that we should ever feel like we need a rush to spend taxpayer dollars when, if we can secure that funding beforehand, we can sign on a dotted line. Do you believe that is we
Well,
could do that?
those are your decisions. I
No,
can tell
I
you this,
understand,
but I do know this, in my experience with working closely with the mayor and every member of council, going through this whole process, you all have been very focused. You've all done your homework. You've been and seen different trolls yourselves. You've done your own research. You've had many questions that you've asked me to get answers to, and I've worked to get answers to all of those questions. So yes, as many as there are different trolls, there are almost as many pathways to a troll, right? So some of them will have, different percentage of public-private partnerships, but they all have found their own way. It's hard to find really any one troll that is like another troll. They did it the same way or the same circumstances. There's some similarities in terms of the fundamentals of the agreement, but getting to one seems to be as unique as the trolls themselves.
No, I got you. Well, James, I appreciate you leading that
Yes, sir.
presentation today to help with the transparency of it. I sadly, as I post on my social media, I sadly have to be a no for this because I wish we would have that help from the private sector. But I respect my colleagues up here on however they decide to vote. And if it does go 3-2 or 4-1, I will welcome the artists into our city because at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. We respect the procedures up here, and however the chips may lay, we do want to be supportive of the outcome. So I just want to let you know that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Mayor.
You ready for me? My little presentation thing is in two parts. First, James, I'm going to ask the question, but you do not have to answer it right now. At some point before we vote, I'd like for you to. We have not addressed the citizen questions that were asked to be presented last Friday at noon. You want to go ahead and address that? Yes, sir.
I mean, so the way you're talking about the citizen questions
Yeah,
that we received?
we asked them to do something Friday at noon, knowing they had never seen this presentation. In fact, I'd never seen it, just for the record.
Yeah,
until
and actually,
tonight.
no one on the council had seen it prior to today, and staff worked together over the weekend to put it together. And as I understand it, when it was arrived to me, it was based upon, responding and reacting to those questions. And so that was all done at the staff level, brought to me, and I made sure that everything that was in it was appropriate and could be shared, and didn't make any commitments that we hadn't made, so I just did a legal review of it. But the staff really put this thing together, and I just kind of cleaned it up. So look, I understood that the questions were, that this was an effort to address those questions. I never saw them myself. I just got the presentation with the expression that we were addressing them. So maybe to get 100% of them, but then I can certainly, if there's anything that hasn't been answered, I'll
I
definitely
haven't
try to
seen
answer.
him either.
Okay, yes, sir, yeah. Well, I'm happy to, if I can answer anything else, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, to get to my first part here, I actually label it setting the record straight. I wanted to address a few things from the feedback that I've received since, since Friday. And first thing, and it was addressed by a couple of speakers tonight, this February meeting where we came out and voted to continue the matter, or whatever term you want to use. And I'm going to give you my perspective. That happened mostly in executive session, so I can only say so much. But that particular night in February, I personally had no intention of coming out of that room and voting to approve this deal. And I had asked for two things. That I wanted to see a contract, and I wanted to hear from the public. Now, I've seen the contract, and now you guys have seen not 100% of it, but as much as we probably legally can expose at this time. And as far as hearing from the public, I've heard loud and clear, and thank everyone for responding via the different methods of response. Last Wednesday's meeting, I got some pushback that I voted no to transparency. My intention coming out of that meeting was to come out here and disclose the terms of that contract and then vote. I really don't see what the difference from last Wednesday to tonight is, because all our attorney did was say what I was going to say. But here we are. and we're ready to put this issue to bed. I want to talk briefly on what I think about A tax and H tax. Again, both of those funds have restrictions and limitations, but they do have an element of latitude within defined limits. A tax. Tourism related? Absolutely. Does this project meet those requirements? Absolutely. But some of the other feedback I got from Councilman Thomas just mentioned that we've been asked about potholes and infrastructure and things. We would have suggested that it's not tourism related, but if you pull the accommodations tax statute, number 4, highways, roads, streets, and bridges providing access to tourism destination. Water and sewer infrastructure to serve tourism. In other words, if you build a bathroom, you'd have to certainly run water and sewer. Development of workforce housing. So there's some latitude and limited but broad, if that's maybe an oxymoron, but there's some things you can do, maybe not potholes. And as far on the H tax side, with respect to roads, the town election is spending a tremendous amount of money on roads. You can build traffic signals. This thing they're going to do at Corley Mill with roundabouts and all this alleviation, apparently they're going to commit, and that's within their right and within the legality of it. So I just want to let everybody know that while this project certainly meets the criteria, there's plenty of other things that you can do with H tax and A tax, and we've been doing it for 12, 15 years, however long these taxes have been available. We weren't on board initially, but eventually. And some people have also pushed back, well, what you gonna do with the money? This is a great, yes, it could be determined, but it was mentioned tonight about the $4 million visitor center. We have exactly $0 to furnish furniture, exhibits, and the things that need to go in that center. Great use of A-tax and H-tax money. We're obligated to staff that center. Part of the agreement for the most generous donation was that we have to staff it. At least one, maybe perhaps more employees. We can pay employees because that obviously would be tourism related. So I don't want to just narrow our scope and project a narrowness of this thing, because there's some latitude and some broadness to these two taxes. One more thing I'd like to address before we get to the second part. I got some feedback that this council, why in the world would we send money to other tourism type related agencies when all they do is buy magazine ads? That was kind of the quote. Wow. 9 months ago, when we were allocating, there's a 30% element to accommodations tax mandated for tourism. You can do it yourself or you can send it to related agencies. I led a charge to leave that money with our local chamber, 100% of the 30%. And absolutely, because I feel like our chamber is very organized and very creative when it comes to promoting our city. Ultimately, it did not work out because the final vote was 2-1, and legally, we couldn't do that. And but on social media and in the print media, I was drugged, blasted, run over by the bus, backed up and got run over again, and I'm still getting hammered by the same people that have said, why in the world would we spend money on magazine ads? Somebody please make that make sense to me, because you can't have it both ways. We're either going to send the money to Experience Columbia and Lake Murray Country, and they're going to buy magazine ads, which we ended up doing. And the people that didn't like my motion destroyed me for it. And now they said, what in the world are we doing this for? So the last part I got here is the contract language, which, James, thank you for going over it tonight. While, again, you certainly can't do it word for word, because it's, I think, 26 pages, this contract is, and you gave us the meat of the matter, but I'm not going to get in, cost, and again, I looked at this thing, sometimes I do terrible analogies, but it's like the old days when you had a taxi cab. When you got in that taxi cab, that guy hit that button and it came up $12, and then the meter started running. Well, in this one, when we hit the button, it's $352,000. That was today's exchange rates. And if you've ever been abroad and you go to a concierge desk or a bank, heaven forbid you do it at an airport, yeah, you get the exchange rate and then about a 3 to 5, 6% fee. So immediately when we transfer this 300,000 euros, $350,000, it would convert we're going to pay a bank fee, and I don't know what that could be. And that's just the beginning of these upcharges and these up costs. And again, I've stated privately and I've stated publicly, I don't have a beef with a troll. If we want to build a big giant log man and put him down in the woods, I'm all for it. I went to Charlotte and I saw Pete, was his name. I think he had a number 70. And he's domestically, I think there's maybe 71 now. But it was interesting, it was intriguing. This is the one that the private developer. And he's laying up there like this, and he's overlooking a retention pond. We will be more creative than that if this thing flies. There's very little, most cliches are that when you negotiate, if both sides are unhappy, then you got a good contract. The way I read this one, I'm the only guy unhappy. I don't think this very talented man is going to be very unhappy. You know, when he puts his head together or whatever he puts together in Denmark, when he calls that shipping company and they pick it up, it is ours. It is our responsibility. Insurance-wise, it is our responsibility. Freight-wise, and I have no clue. That is my problem. I don't know how much the freight is from Copenhagen to Cayce. I don't know what we're going to do with this thing when it gets here till he gets here. And he brings his team and we pay their airplane, we pay their hotels, we pay them a $75 a day meal allowance. Is it a per diem? Do they just simply get paid? We've talked about local people feeding them. I guarantee you, the folks at Cayce will come through. They'll take care of these folks. That's what we do here. But I don't know the cost. I can't go forward with, if I can't in good conscience ask, you people ask me to make good decisions on y'all's behalf. I just can't, you'll never convince me to sign this contract on behalf of the citizens of Cayce. Things that James couldn't mention, there's some things there I have challenges with. So that being said, Mayor, thank you for your time. And I'm going to make one more brief comment that's off base, and if you want to call me now, Mayor, that's fine. But last Wednesday's meeting, I would like to publicly apologize to our staff and the citizens that came. It was a 5 o'clock meeting that we asked staff to be here because we were going to have a budget meeting. They worked all day. They came in here. We had them sit till 9:30, and we came out, made a motion. We motioned to adjourn, and we got up and walked out the door. For that, staff, I apologize. My behavior was unacceptable. It was unprofessional, and I personally apologize. Mayor, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I want to thank our staff for all of your hard work. It's impressive. You guys are just incredibly impressive, and I'm so grateful for everything that you've done. Thank you. And I appreciate Phil's apology too, because, you know, you guys are working overtime on this, and I'm really, really grateful. So Thank you. I also want to thank everyone for being here. You know, the amount of engagement that we have gotten from our citizens about this project is unparalleled. You know, I've spent the better part of the last few days connecting with people in the community. I've received a lot of phone calls and a lot of texts, and I have slowly and surely been getting back to people as I have time. And, you know, we've been sharing perspectives, and I'm really grateful. I'm really, really grateful for the people who've taken the time to speak with me, whether they support the troll, oppose it, or if they're somewhere in between. They just want the information. They want to know what it is. The conversations that I've had have really been the highlight of my time serving the city so far. So thank you, everyone, for, you know, for being here, for being involved. You know, there's been a lot of talk about the funding, and, you know, we have, I think, been really good about getting the information out there when it comes to the funding. So I don't really feel like I need to reiterate what that is. But as far as my perspective on it, you know, we are seeking grants, we are seeking sponsorships, we are seeking private donations. If this passes, when the artist visits, there's been talks of having a fundraiser while he's here. And I mean, I think that is going to be amazing if this passes. You know, the A tax and the H tax, I was familiar about the roads thing, you know, and the using it for infrastructure that supports tourism. When you have established draw for people, it is completely makes sense to use those funds to support the infrastructure that allows the tourists to access it. So the A tax and H tax, they are a tool, and you know, I think the primary use is to attract people to our hotels and to our restaurants. You have to get the people here, and we know that the troll will do that. I mean, I got you guys here, so I mean, I really think that it will do it. Another thing that I have been thinking about, and this is more, I guess, of a regional thing and less of a purely local thing, but I'm sure that some of you know about the H4216, the income tax relief bill that Henry McMaster signed into law, like this month. It changes our tax structure, right? And then lays the legal groundwork to eventually eliminate state income tax, I think is the idea, right? Am I the only one who knows about this? Okay. Keep going. There's also been talk this session about property tax relief, you know, for the people of South Carolina. And I lived in Florida for a few years, and Florida has no state income tax, personal income tax. Florida has no car tax. It's awesome, okay? And one of the mechanisms that allows them to offer that kind of a structure to their residents is tourism. They have a very healthy, of course, tourist economy. You bring the people in, they spend the money in your businesses, and they are funding your services and your amenities when they visit. And, you know, if we're talking about restructuring our taxes in this statewide, I think it's not only prudent for Cayce to consider some sort of tourist investment. I think that from my perspective, it might be kind of irresponsible not to. Where am I? Thank you. Another thing that occurred to me was the Atari Point. You know, that situation, that unfortunate situation, has the potential to remove a sizable amount of money from our city's budget. And we can't use A tax and H tax to cover that. And, you know, to my knowledge, you know, that's a subject for another time, but to my knowledge, we don't really, I mean, there's not a mechanism right now for that if that happens. So, I've heard a lot of you say that we should spend the money on other things, the Riverwalk, parks, infrastructure in general. And I want you to know that I wholeheartedly agree. We need to spend money on those things. Those things are so important. I mean, infrastructure is like, it's very important to me. But I think that when it comes to this project and this subject, I don't see it as an either or. I see it as a this and that. And I don't think that we have to choose between those things. But I've really loved hearing from people. I liked hearing what people were happy about. I liked hearing what people thought needed improvement. I have a lot of ideas bouncing around in my head because of this amazing feedback and the suggestions that I've gotten from you guys, okay? You, the people that I've spoken to in my district. I had a great time on the phone this past week. It was excellent to hear from people and whether we agreed or not. And so I probably have enough to give me some direction for the next few years. And so I'm sorry, Mr. Conley, I'm probably going to be bothering you a lot with all of the things that I've gathered from the people in the wonderful people in this city. I'm really charged up about it. It's exciting. You guys are inspiring. Like I said, whether we agree or not, you're inspiring because you have great ideas. And I really think that the Troll has already made a huge positive impact in our city because of what I have experienced in the last week. And it hasn't even been, nothing has been assembled yet, and it's already had this positive impact. I look around the room and I talk to the people that I talk to, and what I really see is that you all really do have a deep love for the city, and you do. And it doesn't matter if we agree or we disagree, we all share that love for our city. And I think that it unifies us on a higher level. It unifies us. I heard someone say also that we shouldn't spend money on art because times are hard. But I firmly believe that during hard times, it is essential that the community has something positive and joyful to come together around. So thank you all for being here. I really, really appreciate all of you. I appreciate all the people that I talked to, and and thank you guys as well, and staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, can you tell everybody what roads we own in the city of Cayce?
We only own less than a handful of roads in the city of Cayce. Most of them, if not all of them, are state-owned roads with a few county-owned roads. I can't name them right off the hand, but they're mostly just small localized roads.
Yeah, so probably less than a mile. So the county or the state owns the roads in the city. So, but if you do see things that need to be fixed, please make sure, we'll partner with you to make sure they get fixed. But we don't own them, so therefore we can't spend money on them. You talked earlier, Mike, about you had shared with council that there was $50,000 in H-tax and $50,000 in A-tax from this year that is unused funds to use.
Yes, ma'am.
Did that use all of the funds in both of those accounts?
No, ma'am, it did not.
So there's more in there?
Yes, ma'am.
And this is, as we saw from the presentation, paid over 2 years. So the projection for H&A tax for next year is supposed to be the same or bigger?
It's running about the same. Very conservative, but it's running about the same, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So in your estimation, we have the money in those accounts to handle this?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And that's including paying for the things that we're already paying for and not taking anything else away?
Yes, ma'am, from what we have existed in our accounts.
Right. So regarding the payment and thinking about this, being really careful with dollars, that means that we have to go into this knowing that we could handle it all by ourselves. And we can. We just heard that we can. So we can just use H-tax and A-tax, money that is only meant for something like this, and that literally there is nothing else that we could spend this money on that would bring this kind of return on investment. That's not a hope, that's facts. It's a documented return on investment. There was a question about materials, and I want to make sure we clear that up. So, and y'all, Mike, James, y'all weigh in on this, but my understanding is that they use materials from here. So it's about using what's local and what's close, so reclaimed materials. The head itself is one of the biggest structures, and that's what gets shipped over. Is that correct?
From my understanding, research, yes, ma'am, they do like to localize local sourced materials.
Thank you. I posted a video with information telling people about this meeting so that we could make sure that people were aware that we were having a special called meeting. We've done a really great job of what we always do, which is over-communicating and being transparent. Back in February, we came out and made a motion, but also put out a press release just to say we were having a conversation, because we wanted to make sure that people knew that we were having this conversation. And that became a bit of a litmus test itself, because the response to that was so overwhelmingly positive. It was amazing to see that response. But in the response to my video, and there's been over 6,000 views, all positive responses to that video, almost all positive, but positive from so many of our small businesses. They want to sell more boots. They want to sell more coffee. They want to sell more lunchtime meals. This is what helps our current small businesses. It's what helps our current artists, because it brings people here that get to see their art that would never have seen their art otherwise. It brings people here to spend money in our city. The cool thing about what Thomas Dambo does is he rarely does this in big cities. He wants to do things like this in small cities to get people out of the big cities and get them in special places like Cayce. That documented return on investment is amazing. We talked about Councilman Moreau's mentioned just the impact of where our monies come from. We get money from property tax, we get money from business license, and that's generally those two biggest pots where we get money from. I have to say I'm a little concerned about our budget going forward. It's tough. It's not good. Inflation is high. And we have services that you expect, that we want to provide, that we have a municipal responsibility to provide, and that didn't get less expensive. And our revenues didn't increase. But this is a way to do that, and to have other people pay for those things, and more, to be able to do more than we would have ever been able to do on our own. The other really cool thing is, if we take a vote and pass this tonight, it doesn't happen tomorrow. You heard, Thomas Dambo comes here to visit sometime in the fall. And in that meantime, as Mike said the other day about our economic development, Luke, our economic development person, we basically are just giving him the keys to the candy store. We just made economic development in our city so much easier, because the small businesses that want to come here, because they know, people know, they follow this. They know the impact it's going to bring. That means more restaurants for us to enjoy. It means more places for us to shop without leaving our city. all of those things are impactful. So we're not just talking about increasing H&A tax dollars, which I hope we all understand is cyclical money. So that H&A tax money comes in and it goes to a city, and the city is supposed to do things that brings more H&A tax, more people to restaurants, and more people into hotels. So it's cyclical money, and that's how it's supposed to go. So ideally, yes, we end up with more H&A tax, which means we can have more events, we can have more investment on our Riverwalk, we can have more that we can do with that money. But the cool thing is, it's not just that money. We open another restaurant, we open another hotel, we open another small business where a kid gets to work after schools or in the summer, then that's business license. And now, hopefully we can pay our team more. And now, hopefully we can provide services that we put off last year and didn't pay for. It brings return in so many different ways. The location. We don't know exactly where it's going to go, but James Denny, who's our longtime parks director, who just retired after 40 years with us, knows this city better than anybody. And he can help us make sure we find a place that adds and not detracts from our city. We'll give a couple of options to Thomas when he comes, and then he can pick one that he thinks is a cool spot. And the other thing is, he's going to take inspiration from us. He'll learn about our history. He'll learn about our culture. He'll learn about our nature. And then he's going to go back and he's going to think, and he's going to be inspired by Cayce, by the city that we love. He doesn't have a factory that's churning out trolls. He's going to build one that will be uniquely ours, that will be something that we get to have pride in. This is an opportunity. It's basically a question. And it's an extended hand for us to go on a journey together and for us to come together. Those things are godly. Those things are very much what we're supposed to be doing, is living in community, living connected, looking out for each other. This is a way to do that. I stand with those people who feel like we're on the edge of something truly special. And I stand with those people who love Cayce and ask us all to focus on our better selves and to make sure that we're all loving Cayce. I'll call the question.
Councilmember All?
Yes.
Councilmember Thomas?
No.
Councilmember Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Carter?
No.
Mayor?
Yes, thank you, so moved. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'll call the question.
Councilmember All?
Yes.
Councilmember Thomas?
Yes.
Councilmember Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Carter?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, thank you, so moved. Everybody have a good night. Thanks for being with us.